going on, guys, and welcome to the Hotspur Watchalong here on Stateside Footy. Good afternoon. I hope you guys are excited as I am because, God damn it, it is the start of another Premier League campaign set to kick off in less than 30 minutes from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as my beloved Tottenham Hotspur will play host to newly promoted Burnley FC. I got to tell you, man, I get excited every single year. I really do. This is, maybe it's foolish, maybe it's happy clapper, maybe it's some sort of, victim mentality. But every single season I get excited for the start of the Premier League season because, of course, everybody starts on equal footing. And it's another opportunity for the Tottenham Hotspur to be on the front foot and actually show some ambition this season under new head coach Thomas Frank. And to be honest with you, I'm excited, man. Before we get into this, I do want to remind everyone to make sure that they hit the like and subscribe buttons because we are in a race to 1,000 subs, and we're actually doing quite well in that department. But obviously, the more subs, the quicker we can get to 1,000. We're going to be doing some really good stuff on this channel. But be that as it may, let's go ahead and talk about the lineups because Thomas Frank has released his. And of course, in goal will be, Vicario, which is not exactly a surprise, considering Vicario is clear cut the number one. This will be a formation of a 4-2-3-1 narrow, as we saw in certain instances in the preseason. And I'm not exactly surprised that Thomas Frank was going with this one. I thought it might have been a little bit, paying a little too much respect by playing in a back three. But that being said, the back line is going to be Spence, Van de Ven, Romero, who's going to be wearing the captain's armband, and Pedro Porro on the right. A double pivot of Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall, and then I guess you could say the number 10 position will be held by Pap Sarr, and then an attacking three of Johnson on the left, Richarlison through the middle, and Mohamed Kudus on the right. Now, when I saw this lineup, it kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop. But that being said, it's understandable when you consider that 3 days ago this team was playing in a very big match against PSG in Italy, and I shouldn't have been surprised that Paulinho was probably going to be rested for this one. In case you guys forgot about it, Paulinho last season had less than 600 minutes in the Bundesliga, was pretty much injured for a good portion of last season. So coming in, you probably would expect that there was going to be, some kid gloves as they handle Paulinho. And it doesn't surprise me that he's, going to be rested today. I would probably assume we're going to see him at some point, maybe in the second half, but, most definitely next week against Man City. Same thing with Betancourt. Again, I just think that, when you play, at that physical pace is which he played against PSG. It's not exactly, rocket science to see him on the bench. Same thing with Solanke. He's coming back from an injury, that little ankle tweak right there. And so I would probably assume, again, we'll probably see Solanke at some point in this match as well, too. But, when I look at this lineup, I would probably assume that, Richarlison coming off what I consider a very good performance against PSG, against a team like Burnley, would it be surprising if, Richarlison was able to put one in? Probably not. But that being said, for me today, this looks like more of a defense, a defensive counter-attacking team. It's going to be interesting in my estimation to see exactly how Burnley plays a little bit more defensively. I'm sure they saw exactly how certain teams approach Spurs in the preseason and essentially kind of overloading that right-hand side and almost willing and daring Spurs to beat them in some other fashion, right? Which is where I would believe a Pap Sarr comes in huge today, simply from the standpoint that, Pap Sarr probably has been one of our best players for the course of the preseason. And it looks like he's coming into this campaign on the front foot, which I think will help. The question is who's going to be that other roaming midfielder, right? Is it going to be more of a Lucas Bergvall, or is it going to be like an Archie Gray, like we saw against Newcastle? And by the way, I actually thought Archie Gray played pretty well against Newcastle, all things considered. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how this plays out. But I would probably assume that maybe we'll see a couple different formations, especially in the second half as well too, because of the fact that we do have a Kevin Danso who can come in Same thing with a Betancourt, an Odebear, and a Solanke coming off, and then all of a sudden, Thomas Frank might switch it up and give Burnley something extra to think about as this game continues to progress. So it's going to be very interesting from the Tottenham Hotspur side of things. It's going to be I don't know, man. Like when I saw this, I was a little thrown for a loop. But now that I've had time to really kind of think about it, I wasn't surprised to see some sort of rotation. But that being said, where are the goals going to be coming from today? And more specifically, is this team prepared to potentially break down what I consider the back five that we're going to see from Burnley? Speaking of Burnley, let's go ahead and look at their starting lineup. And it looks like they're going to be starting with Dubravka, Walker, Hartman, Estevez, Foster, Anthony, Ekdal, Son, Colin, Hannibal, and Laurent. And I believe they're going to be starting, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're going to be starting in a 5-4-1. The back line of Son, Walker, Ekdal, Estevez, and Hartman. A midfield four of Medjbri, Colin, Laurent, and Anthony. And then up top will be Foster. So it's going to, you're probably going to see a lot of movement from Burnley attacking. The question is this Tottenham back 7 capable, especially through the middle of the park, because that has been an area, especially playing in this formation, that Spurs just hasn't exactly been great. Now they've been pretty good on the wings, essentially taking away that type of pressure from the wings. So who knows? But that being said, I don't necessarily take Burnley lightly. I know that last season this was a thorn in Spurs side. Coming up with results against teams that were what I would consider relegation fodder. Sides that are going to be down at the bottom of the pitch. And so it's in my opinion, it's imperative that not only do Spurs get off to a quick start today, but they also get that quick goal. Get the crowd on their side as early as possible, and put this thing away by the time we get to the half. And I actually think that potentially is possible. So we're going to see. But that being said, let's go ahead and look at the chat real quick. We have Dan Davenport, who says, I think we should try to get Donnarumma if we can, as he is surplus to requirements at PSG. Last season, Vicario made a lot of mistakes in goal in the Prem last season. Yes, but that being said, here's the thing, right? I don't think goalkeeper is necessarily a position of weakness at this stage. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I actually thought that Vicario played well down the stretch, especially in the Europa League. I thought he had actually played some of his better games in those matches. But that being said, we also have seen Kinski as well too, and I didn't think Kinski was really all that great. But that being said, with Kinski, you see the high ceiling that he possesses, right? You can see that, where the development is leading. And there's going to be a case that in the next couple of years that, maybe Kinski possibly can be that guy. But as of right now, I think there's no mistake that Vicario is the clear cut. Not only that, he's also a leader as well, too. But that being said, he did have a rusty preseason. Let's not pretend that he didn't. There were a couple goals that were leaked from outside the box, bad positions that he did. But that being said, I don't have a problem with it, right? Considering, who we gave it up to. It was Bayern Munich where that happened. And of course, the 2 goals that PSG scored late were actually very good shots and put in very good positions. So I don't necessarily blame Vicario for that one, but I can understand why there's going to be some people that would like to see maybe a potential, swooping in for a guy like Donnarumma. He goes on to say, I think we'll win 3-1. This morning, I made the prediction 3-0, just because, when you saw the, defensive intensity is that we possessed against Arsenal, and then, of course, the defensive intensity of which we showed against PSG, it makes me believe that this back five is capable of consistently putting in that type of performance. Now, what I liked about their performances against Arsenal and PSG was the fact that they were composed, they were compact, they were organized, they were good off the ball. But the thing that I liked the most about it is that they were willing to press high. And against PSG, there were times where they could not string together passes, and which worked out well because we were able to turn over high up the pitch and put ourselves in a position to counter quickly. And what ended up resulting was 2 goals off of set pieces. So we did take advantage of what PSG was willing to give us. That being said, the jury's still out really in this 4-2-3-1, narrow type of formation where at sometimes we looked at, we conceded possession far too easy. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how this one will play out today. But that being said, I still think that we're going to get a good performance out of this one because we have to, right? The last thing we can't do is walk away with an underwhelming draw going into Manchester City the following week. And then put ourselves even farther behind the 8 ball if we draw with that, or even lose to Manchester City and then draw against a team like Bournemouth the week after, right? The last thing you want is to be in a position where you only have 2 points from the first 3, right? So today is imperative that we not only get off on the right foot, but we also get this crowd involved early. That's something that I want to see. I want to see a hungry, raucous crowd today. And the only way that happens is if we get on the board early and we continue to push the pace against Burnley's back 5. Dan Davenport goes on to say, Donnarumma is a very experienced keeper. Compared to Vicario, did you know that Luis Enrique got interviewed for the Spurs head coach role? I did not, but it doesn't surprise me. But that being said, Luis Enrique is in a pretty good position with PSG anyway, so I'm not surprised that that didn't work out. But compared to Vicario, yeah, I guess you could say that Donnarumma was in net last season, playing in some very big Champions League games. But that being said, the question is exactly number one, how much is PSG asking, and number 2, does Donnarumma even want to come? That's the question you have to ask. And I would probably assume I already know that answer. But I will say this, though. Again, specifically for today, this has to be a match where Spurs take advantage of every last inch on that pitch, because on paper, right? On paper, this should not be a close game. Spurs, by the way, even with this weird, little bit of a weird starting 11, they should have enough pace and enough power to beat Burnley and essentially beat them off the pitch, right? So I'm going to stick with my 3-0. I'm going to stick with my 3-0 prediction. I think that this, me personally, I can't envision a scenario where we let down and let Burnley back into the match. I just can't envision that scenario, especially knowing that, in the second half, we're going to see some guys come onto the pitch that are going to be able to change the direction of the match. So, all right, let's go ahead and turn the page a little bit, because there is a couple pieces of news that we do have to talk about. And that's number one, apparently there was a protest today before the team arrived at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And for me, I was a little indifferent to this one, mainly because, number one, I think it was a little tone deaf. Now, let me get this out of the way by saying that I don't have a problem if anybody protests, especially if it is a cause that you absolutely love. And when it comes to Spurs, I can understand the emotion and the passion that comes with supporting this club, because you think that, maybe we didn't act quick enough in the transfer window while some of the league's heavies were able to get their business done early and out of the way. And I just think it goes to show just exactly the power and the clout that both clubs have versus a team that finished 17th place last year in the Premier League. But I think with protest, man, you have to read the room. Considering that we did win a Europa League trophy last season, and we have a new head coach heading into a season where, if you look at the schedule, for me at least, there's an opportunity for this team to pad some points before the schedule turns to a portion which is going to be absolutely dreadful for this team. I just think that this protest was tone deaf in every single way. To me, it's unfathomable that you would do this, right? You would try to inject what I would consider a very good afternoon with a little bit of negativity, considering that you don't think that Spurs are trying hard in the transfer window, because I would go the other way and say that absolutely they have. They're also negotiating against exactly how this team has been over the course of the last 5 years, right? The unstable condition when it comes to the coaching staff, or whether it comes to the front offices, and some of the jumbled mess that has been. But that being said, Thomas Frank does have quite a bit of cachet when it comes to the Premier League, and maybe some leagues abroad, because he actually has. He has dabbled into the transfer market a little bit. And by the way, word is that we are going to get some reinforcements in the coming days. So again, I just looked at this and said, it's understandable last season. It's very much understandable last season. And in necessary terms, it might have even been appropriate, because in that second half of last season, when Ange Postecoglou made that decision to essentially punt the Premier League and focus on the Europa League, and some of those results were absolutely dreadful, it was understandable that would happen, 100%. But this is something completely different. Unbelievable that it would happen on a day like this, when there's going to be a lot of emotion and a lot of excitement, and that emotion is going to be running high today. And I just think that maybe, just maybe, these guys that wanted to protest today didn't necessarily read the room. And by the way, I heard there wasn't a lot of people there for that protest, which I kind of reflects where I am. So let's see. G Giants in the house. He says, "Big up, Spurs win 3-1. I like it. Who's going to score the goals for you today, G Giant? Would like to know." He also said the protest was uncalled on the first match. For the first match, 100%, without a doubt. And then we have Audio Artisan. Audio, big man. What's going on, man? How's your weekend so far? All right. The other piece of news that I think it's important that we touch on, because I got word this morning that the deal for Eberechi Eze is done. That it is a 5-year deal, and that that the weekly wage is going to be up to £175,000 a week, which is the right call. Now, again, I know that there's conflicting reports about this. It's understandable that there's going to be a lot of wait and see, especially for those that are incredibly jaded when it comes to the Tottenham Hotspur. They just actually want, they're willing to wait until Eze is holding up the shirt. But my source, who is pretty close to this, thinks that essentially has come across and said that it's a done deal, which is absolutely huge. Same guy who let me know about the Mohamed Kudus deal as well. So that being said, it is what it is. The way that I look at this is that having an Eberechi Eze in this side is actually going to free up Pap Sarr to play the position that he's actually really good at, which is that box to box roaming midfielder, which is actually where he needs to be. But it's also going to ease some pressure on a guy like Rodrigo Betancourt. Same thing with Polini as well too. But having a guy number one like Eberechi Eze is going to actually free up some of these guys to play in their natural positions, which is absolutely huge. But the second thing, when you look at this, regardless of whatever formation that Thomas Frank wants to play, having an Eberechi Eze who consistently over the course of his 10,000 Premier League minutes as an attacking midfielder, his assist to strike ratio is through the roof. And I think that's his best position as well too, right? And when I think about it, Is Eberechi Eze going to be, a pass first, strike second type of player? Probably not. But that being said, when you look at how this team has been set up, it relies on the high press. Unbelievably relies on the high press, to the point where, as we saw against Arsenal, as we saw a little bit against Newcastle, and as we saw against PSG, they have the ability to disrupt passing lanes. They're quick to the ball, and at that point, they're going to create turnovers high up the pitch. And having a guy like Eberechi Eze, who can actually play people into the box on solid weighted passes, or even go to even those touch passes where he's going to be free to make runs into the box, it's going to unlock something that's going to be so completely different than what we currently have. And yeah, I'll concede that all of this came about because James Maddison got hurt. But we also are going to improve this team substantially with them. And then maybe we get Savinho through the door as well too. But from my standpoint, putting Eberechi Eze in this side is going just night and day better than anything that we've seen. And I understand, it took a long time for this deal to come to fruition. But that being said, I'm glad that it happened. So that is what I'm hearing at this stage as well too. That the Eze deal is done. So, as far as I'm concerned, man, I'm rejoicing. Let's see. We got G Giant, who says Sar, Kudus, and Richie are going to score today. So Sar, Kudus, and Richie. So let me ask you a question real quick, G Giant. What happens if Burnley overload that right-hand side? Right? What happens if that? Right? So for me, me personally, I think this is going to be a situation where Jed Spence is going to have to play a huge role in this match as well too, because the fact that Brendan Johnson is a relegation merchant. What do I mean by that? Well, when he scores, generally speaking, it's he's floating a little bit to the post, and I think on the left hand side that probably favors him a little bit on the right foot. That being said, also, when you consider that, Brendan Johnson is not the type of guy who's going to take on his defender 1v1, and I believe that's going to be Kyle Walker today. But that being said, when you have a guy like Jed Spence on the overlap, that's going to put pressure. I would probably assume that it has the potential of maybe drawing some of that overload off the right side, maybe a little bit more centrally, which is actually going to be good for a guy like Papsar, like Archie Gray, who are probably going to be playing higher up the pitch today. You're going to have to pay attention to a guy like Jedi Spence because he can rip you apart. So Sar, Kudus, and Richie. Okay. I can see Papsar scoring, but I don't know, man. I don't know about Kudus. It all just depends on exactly how Burnley line up and how they're going to play. But I would love to see a Richie goal. I would absolutely love to see a Richie goal. That would be a good way to get the season off on the front foot, is by having that guy who had a couple opportunities in preseason, couldn't take them, but I would love to see it. Audio Artisan says, so far, so good. We'll see after the game, though. Fair enough. He goes on to say that it would be our best player. Yeah, he probably would. Let's keep it real. He probably would. But I'm also excited about the combination of Eberechi Eze and Dejan Kulusevski when he gets back, and that midfield, that high pressing midfield too of Kulusevski and Eberechi Eze. Essentially having two bulls in a china cabinet, pressing high up the pitch. I don't know, man. That gets me excited more than anything. But that being said, man, we are close, and it looks like the players are about to come onto the pitch, and it's a good reminder. Number one, I want to thank all of those that are currently in the chat today. I'm glad that you guys decided to hang around for the Hotspur watch along. I want to thank those that are tuning in today. Remember to make sure you smash that like and subscribe button because we are on a race to 1,000 subs, and so far, man, this channel has done very good. But also remember to check me out on the good old interwebs, man. On X at Stateside Footy, and of course on TikTok at the same handle as well too. And I do appreciate those that have already liked and subscribed. So it looks like the players are coming out on the pitch, and here comes Spurs. It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting. Let me ask you guys a question real quick. Who is going to be that? Who's going to be that guy in the midfield who's going to be playing that? I guess you could say that roaming player. Is that going to be a Lucas Bergvall, or is that going to be Archie Gray? Archie played well in that role against Newcastle, and I thought he actually played pretty well. My guess would be Archie Gray. I think that's the crazy thing, right? I think they're both equally good on the ball. But that being said, I have to shout out Bergvall because there were times last year where he probably was one of the better players for a long spell. But that being said, man, we are close to kickoff. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I got to be honest with you, man. I get geeked out like this every single time the season starts. Same thing happened last year against Leicester at the King Power. That didn't necessarily work out like I thought it would. But that being said, man, against a team like Burnley, there should be no excuses. No excuses not to start this game as quick as possible, get a couple goals in before the halftime. That's going to ease some pressure off this lineup. But I also think it's going to put guys like Dominic Solanke, Wilson Odebear, Polinia, guys that are going to be coming on in the second half. I think they're going to put them at ease as well too. And I think the way that Thomas Frank did this was actually correct. So let's see. The Audio Artisan says, I think Gray 6, Bergvall 8. Sorry, 10 yet. Would you be surprised, though, if Bergvall was actually the 6 today? Would you be surprised, though? Because I wouldn't. I don't think I wouldn't. But, yeah, so it looks like, I guess you could say that, Burnley is actually in a 4-2-3-1. Now that I look at it, yeah, that's kind of looking like what it's going to be. But it's Burnley. It's Burnley, for Christ's sake. There should be no excuses, man. There should be absolutely no excuses as we are getting close to the start here. And there's Mohamed Kudus. And I just want to see this team get off to a flying start. So we are almost underway here. So I'm going to say 3-0. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say the goals are going to come from Johnson, Sarr, and Solanke in the second half. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah, I think Johnson might score in this one. And it looks like right now there is a moment of silence right now at the stadium as both sides and the fans have a moment of silence for the brothers that were killed in the car accident just last month, which was a nice touch, man. Which was a nice touch. Diego Jota and his brother, which was an absolute nice touch. I like that. I absolutely do. It's very classy on the part of Tottenham Hotspur for this moment of silence. And there it is. And it looks like we are almost underway here as Tottenham will be playing to the north goal, as Burnley will be playing to the south. Oh, look at Audio Artisan, man. 3-1 goals by Richie Bergvall and 2 by Richie, 1 by Bergvall, and then 1 for Kyle Walker. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. You think Richie's going to bag the brace, huh? Okay. I like it. As we are almost underway here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And there it is, as that ball will be played back to Vicario. And we are underway in the 2025-2026 season, and Vicario will play this up off the right-hand side. And that ball is going to get played forward into the box as it's ricocheted. And that's chipped forward, headed away, but here's Kudus, who's going to play this forward into Bergvall. Ooh. Oh, that's kind of an exciting start right here. It looks like Brendan Johnson played one up, and it looked like it went down to Kudus, who chipped it forward. Great touch right there by Lucas Bergvall as that ball gets deflected out, and we will have a corner here. Spurs, a minute in, taking their first corner, as that one's going to be played a little, going to play shortly, but then as that ball gets kicked out, was that Brandon Johnson who skied it? Yeah. Good movement right there by Lucas Bergvall. As Burnley will have the goal kick here. And that ball's played deep down the left-hand side. And it looks like that's going to get out for a Spurs throw-in. So let's see if the Spurs can take advantage here. Of course, last year, Burnley ran away in the championship, getting one of the automatic promotions back into the Premier League after 2 years. The last time we saw them in the Premier League, they got absolutely manhandled. But that being said, it's good to see Burnley back in the Premier League. And it's Van de Ven. Now here comes Jed Spence pushing forward, and he's got acres of space. Here's Archie Gray. And now it's Romero. Back to Gray, who's going to play it off to the left. It's Jed Spence. And now it's Romero. Ooh, and Pedro Porro slipped while trying to play one in, but it gets deflected out. And Spurs will have another throw-in. Spurs look pretty good on the ball. Pedro will play this short. Nice little touch to Bergvall. Bergvall's going to play one in. Ooh, right there. Good stop right there by the keeper. Good movement right there to come out and grab that out of the air, as he had Richarlison right there. So far, Spurs are playing good balls into the box. And all of a sudden, they're going to whistle a corner, so Spurs will have another corner here. That ball is played in. That's going to get deflected out. That ball's going to get played in. Back post, a little too hard. Tapped in. As Jed Spence will play it onto his right. As Burnley's playing good defense right there, as that ball had to get set all the way back to Vicario. And Spurs will reset. It's Jed Spence. Now it's Van de Ven. It looks like Spurs want to attack down that left-hand side. Here's Spence. There's nothing there. Good ball movement right there by Van de Ven, who's now going to – ooh, look at Van de Ven. Looks like it'll be a Burnley throw-in. As Burnley has yet to really mount anything in their build-up, as Van de Ven will head this forward. And now he'll just kick that out, so it'll be another throw-in here off the right touch line for Burnley. As we're only about 5 3/4 through the this match here. That ball's going to get thrown well into the box. That's going to get headed down, tipped away. There's a shot that's going to go way right up the far right post right there, and that'll be a Spurs goal kick. Nothing really on that ball. And now here comes Spurs quickly down the left-hand side. It's Brennan Johnson who's got to play this one back to Archie Gray. Good pressure right here by Burnley. Now it's Romero. Now it's Van de Ven. Now it's Romero. Nice ball right there. It's like that's Pap Sarr. Here comes Kodos. He had 3 claret jerseys right on him. Not surprising. I figured that would probably happen. Here's Jed Spence. And Brendan Johnson hugging the touchline instead of trying to make a run. That's a nice little pass into Pap Sarr from Romero. Tipped away. Here's Archie Gray. Here's Brennan. Brennan's going to try to get around his corner. Ball in. And that's going to get flied over the crossbar. As Brendan Johnson's first real touch results in a kind of an ugly cross right there, but it'll be a Burnley free kick as that ball is going to get booted down the center of the pitch as Romero will head this forward. And there's a whistle against Romero for a little bit of a shoulder right there. Looks like it was what, against Foster? Nah, they're saying elbow. Whatever. Whatevs. As we are in the 8th minute. If anything, that was good physical play, but this is going to be a free kick from about 45 yards out. Looks like it might be Colin taking this one. That ball is going to get played in off the right-hand side. It looks like it was Jed Spence who disrupted it. There's a ball that's going to get played in. And now it's going to get cleared. But there was a whistle right there against Foster. And Spurs will start with Romero. As Van de Ven will play it back to Romero. That's a good ball. Trying to free Kudus, but right there to clean it up. But Spurs will hold this one in. It's Kudus. Tipped away. Kudus retains possession around the corner. Kudus is going to try to play one in. Shoots. Go! Richie puts one in to give Spurs the 1-0 lead here in the 90th minute. Great goal right there by Richie. But it all starts with Mohamed Kudus keeping possession, putting in a pretty good ball. As that gets tipped away, but Kudus keeps it as that ball finds Richarlison, who puts in a good solid touch. And now Spurs take a 1-0 lead 10 minutes into the first half. Unbelievable. That's what I love about Kudus, his ability to stay with the play and not give up, and that's exactly what he did. But Richie right there, what a gorgeous touch. And all of a sudden, it's 1-0 Spurs. Oh, beautiful goal right there by Richie. And it looks like Audio Artisan might have been a little right. Might have been a little right here. It says we could really do with Easy and Savio against this low block. Yeah. We'll see. I think Eze, well, as far as I'm concerned, from what I heard, Eze's done. Savio is going to be a little bit. We'll see. But here comes Spurs again. As they take back possession, it's Brendan Johnson who will play this back now to Van de Ven, who keeps it to the left. And Bergvall will play this one back, and now it's Romero. You know Romero wants to go in. Nice little touch right there. And here's Porro. Header. As that gets out. As Richarlison got on the end of it, it looked like to be a little high right there. As that one flies over the crossbar. But again, Spurs look dangerous. Are playing balls in from that right-hand side. They've already cashed in on one. Goal by Richarlison. As Burnley will boot this one deep. That's going to get headed up. And it comes, it looked like Burnvall. And there's a penalty right there against Laurent. And that looks like it will be against Jed Spence. But it looked like that as that goal kick came down, it looked like Bergvall misplayed a little bit as Burnley was able to get forward. Van de Ven tried to clear it. And Spence gets whistled for the call right there as he was trying to head that forward. So here will be a free kick for Burnley, pretty deep, about 20 yards to the right-hand side. As that ball gets played in, good ball, headed up and then over. So it'll be a Spurs free kick, as now they're going to play this quick up the right-hand side. And there will be a whistle right there against Kudus as he was trapped with 3 Burnley players. And Spurs will take the restart quickly. Here's Pedro Porro. He's going to play this one back. As it's obvious that Spurs like to play up this right-hand side. Now it's Jed Spence who finds Archie Gray. Nice little touch right there by Archie Gray. Oh, nice move by Bergvall. Trying to get that ball back. But it does get out for a Burnley throw in here. Now it'll be on the right-hand touchline. That's a good throw-in. And it looks like they're going to say, was that off of Brennan Johnson? Yeah, it's going to be a corner for Burnley now. This will be Burnley's first corner. as this ball's going to get whipped in. And that's going to get headed out. But right there, ooh, that ball flies. So it'll be a Spurs goal kick here, as they're going to try to play this quick. As Romero will chip it to the left-hand side. Here comes Jed Spence, who's got nothing but room here on the left side. That ball's going to get played forward, looking for Bergvall, just a little too far forward. Good intention right there. Good idea. Now here comes Burnley now. Trying to play it deep on the left-hand side. They do. And they're going to say offside. As it looks like we are now approaching the 16th minute. Spurs lead 1-0 on a goal from Richarlison. Spurs do look good. I will have to concede. Now, granted, they are pushing it down the right-hand side, rightfully so. Although the room that they actually have an opportunity to exploit is on the left-hand side, but it's not surprising. Here's Van de Ven. And now it's Romero. Here's Porro. That ball's going to get deflected out by Anthony. Yeah, Spurs will have the throw in here. It's Pedro Porro. That's played in. Here's Porro. He's going to try to hit Kudus on the right-hand side. And there's going to be a quick stop and a start. And I think the ref is going to make Spurs start that one again a little too quick. That's a good ball right there from Spence. But Johnson was just a little too late to it. They're trying to figure out a way to get Johnson involved, but goddamn. Johnson just doesn't have the wherewithal to play on that left-hand side, in my opinion. As there's going to be another whistle here. I don't know if it's laziness or just tactical awareness by Brennan Johnson, but he just never seems to be in the right spot. As Spurs will have the free kick. Here's the restart. As that ball gets played back to Vicario. Now it's Romero. As Porro will play it forward to Kudus. As Kudus holds on to the ball. We'll play it. He had some pressure right there. Here's Vicario. As Spurs reset here. Here's Porro playing it forward. As that will get out for a Burnley throw-in. That was almost taken away right there. Ooh, and that's going to be a whistle against Romero. Audio Artisan says BJ doesn't have the attacking guile for wing play. I would agree. Hate to say it. Yeah. I hate to say it, but yeah, Brendan, it's weird, right? Brendan does have a knack to get to the post, so that's one thing. But that being said, man, you can't play him on, as that free kick will bounce around. Burnley will keep it high. As Burnley resets here. Oh, that's a nice ball in. But right there is Vicario. As Wayne Bonner asks, what was Richie's goal like? He was played in by Muhammad Kudus on deep on the right-hand side as that ball came into the box, and it almost looked like it was an off-balance shot, but his accuracy was right on target as Richie scored that first goal. I would say overall we're playing better than Burnley, but we are playing, too much down that right-hand side as Burnley has started to overload a little bit. As Porto has to play it back to Romero. And now this will be played all the way back to Vicario as Burnley's trying to press. As Vicario will play it forward. And it's Richarlison who's going to chip it to the right-hand side. It's Pedro Porro who's going to play it forward to Kudus. Here's Kudus, 1v1. Cuts, fires into the box. Ooh. Another good ball into the box right there. Yeah, looks like maybe Brennan Johnson might have been offside. As Bergvall almost was played onto one. But it looks like it was whistled for offside. And now Burnley with a goal kick that's going to get played centrally as it bounces around. But right there is Romero. And Spurs will hold possession. That's a good ball right there from Van de Ven. But Johnson was a little bit out of position as that ball goes out for a Burnley throw-in. As Kyle Walker now will take this throw-in. It's weird seeing Kyle Walker in the claret and blue. It's just weird. As Burnley had possession, here's Walker. That ball's going to get shot into net, but there's Vicario right there, as Laurent didn't have much on that. As Spurs defense have really kept Burnley out of their box. That's a nice little come on. As Jet Spence tried to play one forward, there was just nobody there, and so now Burnley will take possession. Good pass through the middle as they will play it off the left-hand side. As this ball moves a little centrally, it's Kyle Walker who shoots, and that gets skied over the crossbar right there. To answer your question, yes, he's on the bench for them. As this will be a goal kick right here. Here's Vicario, and Vicario will play this forward. That's taken away. Here comes Burnley. As that ball gets deflected. Nice little touch right there by Papsar. So here comes Porro. Porro is going to try to play one forward. Headed away by Burnley. Now Burnley will control possession. Spurs look like they were trying to break right there. Good defense by Burnley. As Burnley's starting to kind of get a little into this match now, as we are 24 minutes in, off the left-hand side, that ball's going to get deflected, tap forward, as that ball is going to get away, and it's going to be a Spurs throw-in off the left-hand side. As Pedro Porro will be responsible for this throw-in. Spurs lead 1-0 as they got a goal from Richarlison in the 10th minute. But surely Burnley has got back at this one. But here's Jed Spence up the left-hand side. He's got room. Trying to play it forward to Brendan Johnson, who bumps Kyle Walker out of the way. But now it's Bergvall. Here's Gray. And he's going to play it all the way back to Romero. Spurs will try to switch sides. So that ball just is a little too forward for Pedro Porro. And that gets out for a Burnley throw-in. As Romero was trying to play it on to Pedro Porro. As that pass had just a little too much gas on it. And now, here we go. Oh, nice play. Nice play by Van de Ven, but there's a whistle. Oh, yeah. And that's going to be, that's an easy call right there. As Foster got some jersey right there. Good whistle. As Spurs will start this replay. That ball's taken away. Now Spurs take it away. And it's Sarr. There's Pap Sarr. It's Bergvall. He's got to lay this one back to Pedro Porro. Now it's Van de Ven. It's Jed Spence. Good pass right there by Spence, and it's Bergvall. Here comes Gray. And it's Romero. And that ball was absolutely nowhere. It was in no man's land, but here comes Burnley now. Shoots, and that goes over the bar as they played Foster on. But right there was Romero. So now all of a sudden Burnley is starting to get down the pitch. But that being said, that pass by Romero was literally to nobody. But Romero was able to track down Foster, and goad him into a wild shot right there. As now Romero is holding his elbow, but it looks like he'll be all right. So now all of a sudden Burnley starting to find its way back into this match, and here's going to be a corner off the right-hand side. As we are almost ready for this corner here. Spurs have actually done pretty well against set pieces. I will have to agree with that. That ball's going to get played in. Now it's going to get headed out. But Burnley will hold this ball up. Good defense right there by Jed. That ball's going to get chipped in. Headed forward right there is Vicario. And it looked like Esteve got onto that one. Here comes Spurs now. And it'll be Jed Spence. Here's Archie Gray. As Van de Ven will play it over to Romero. Burnley is doing a very good job of pressing Spurs here. Here's Vicario. Here's Kudus. Trying to play his way out of this pressure. Nice. That ball's turned over. Immediately, here comes Burnley now. Trying to play it underneath. They do. There's a shot. Ooh, and it goes wide. Ooh. As Burnley's high press puts him in an advantageous position. That was close. As here's the goal kick. As that ball gets played forward, here's Kudus. Kudus is going to fly this one to the left side. Here's Spence. And Spence can't go anywhere. And now they're going to play this up the right-hand side. Here's Pedro Porro. Porro is going to try to hit the cross. There's nobody there. Oh, nice play right here. Hotspur. Now here comes Burnley. As they're going to try to play this one up to the left-hand side quickly, and they do. And there's going to be a whistle. Ugh. This looks like it's going to be a Burnley free kick in a dangerous spot here. Looks like Romero got tagged with the whistle. As Dan Davenport says, according to rumors, we have agreed to purchase Eze 55 million plus items. I've heard that and I've also heard that from my source that was the number of what the release clause was, which I believe would have been 68 mil. But either way, from what I heard, that this deal is done. It's a 5-year deal with Eze. So from that standpoint, yeah, we'll see. So this will be a Burnley free kick, and it is in a dangerous spot here. Let's see what the Spurs defense can do here on this set piece. Looks like it'll be Majby. As this ball gets whipped in, and it'll go over the crossbar. And this will be a Spurs goal kick. And now they're going to play this one quick. It's Pedro Porro, and he's got to lay it back. Any news on John Textor as he is trying to buy Sheffield Wednesday? I have not heard anything about Textor buying Wednesday, but it wouldn't surprise me. Here's Bergvall. He's going to play this off the right side. It's Pedro Porro. And he's got to lay this one back. Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me considering Textor is looking for primary ownership of somebody. That ball is going to get played up off the right. Here's Pedro Porro. That ball is in. And and now it's taken away. Good play right there by Archie Gray. Here's Jed Spence. The Spurs will hold this one in. Brendan Johnson. Johnson will play this over to Jed Spence. Spence will hold it. Here's Papsar. Oh, and that ball's taken away. Looked like it was Richie trying to flick one forward. As they're going to play this up the left-hand side. Here's Anthony. He tried to flick it forward, but looks like that's going to get out. Spurs lead 1-0 after a Richarlison goal in the 10th minute. And it's currently 1-0 as we are now in the 33rd as we are approaching the end of the first half. And this looks like it will be a Burnley throw-in as Kyle Walker will come to take this throw-in. As that ball is going to get shot into the box, headed forward. As Burnley will keep position. There's a ball that's going to get pinged. And now Van de Ven will try to clear. Spurs will hold possession. That's a good ball. Here comes Bergvall. Bergvall looking for any type of runner, and he's got one. It's Brendan Johnson who's on the races now, as that'll get out for a goal kick. Excuse me, that was Archie Gray. Not a bad run by Gray. But that being said, they're not getting down that right-hand side as much as they were early in the first half. Early in this first half, which isn't surprising. I was expecting Burnley to adjust, and they have, as that ball is going to get played deep, as that'll bounce Back to Romero. And it's Porro now. Who's under pressure. Here's Van de Ven. It's Bergvall. Turning and now moving up the pitch. It's Bergvall. Bergvall. Who will hold. And now he'll chip this forward off the right-hand side. It's Pedro Porro. Here's Porro. That ball's in. That's going to get deflected up. But it's Bergvall who holds it. And here comes Porro. Hapsar. Archie Gray. Who will play it back over to Porro. Porro is going to throw one in. That's going to get headed out. And Porro will keep it in. Here's Sarr. He plays all the way over to Jed Spence now. Spence tried to play one in. That gets deflected. Here comes Van de Ven. Nice movement by Van de Ven. Here's Kudus. That ball gets deflected out. As we are approaching the 37th minute here, as we're getting dangerously close to the end of the first half. And here comes Spurs again. It's Jedi who will play this off to Archie Gray. Here's Bergvall. Plays it to the right to Romero, who's going to try to play one in. That one gets deflected. Now here comes Burnley. Down the middle of the pitch, and he's got a man. Oh, and there's Van de Ven to clear it. Who plays it all the way back to Vicario. Oh, that was a nice play right there. Here comes Jed Spence, who beat his man. He's going to play it centrally. It's Archie Gray. As Gray will play this, it's Kudus. That ball gets out, and it'll be a Spurs throw-in. I would say we're playing pretty well. I think we're doing well in the possession battle, although Burnley has kind of started to get a little forward. But that being said, our ability to hold it up high has been quite impressive. We're not getting as many balls in the box as we did early in the first half. As there's the throw-in right there. That's going to bounce around, and it's for Charlison, who's going to play this one back to Papsar. Here's Spence, who's going to play one in, as that's going to get headed out. And that'll be another Spurs throw-in. And it'll be Bergvall. And as Bergvall will try to throw this one into the box. Headed away. Spurs get that one back. But there's a whistle. It looks like it's going to be possession to Burnley now. As Van de Ven gets that whistle. Burnley will cause us some problems, but I see us causing them mirror problems. How are Bergvall and Gray doing today? I think Bergvall and Gray have played actually pretty well. Bergvall is kind of that high roaming midfielder. And Gray's playing a little, playing that more traditional six. I think both have played incredibly well so far. They can hold their own. Here's Van de Ven, who's going to try to play this forward. It's Rishi. Now it's Bergvall, who will hold possession. Here's Kudus, now down the right-hand side. Kudus tries to cut. He's going to lay this one off. It's Jedi who shoots, and that's going to go That's going to go over the bar right there. Good movement right there. Good movement. And I think they're going to say offsides by Brendan Johnson. No, I guess not. That's wild. Looked like he was way offsides. As this goal kick will be headed forward. And Spurs almost nicked possession there. But here comes Burnley now. It's Kyle Walker will try to play this up the left-hand side. That's going to be headed up. It'll come down. As that ball is deflected out by Pedro Porro. So Burnley throw in here. Deep in Spurs territory now. As we are now approaching minute 41. As Kyle Walker will come over to throw this one in. As that's going to be played in, it's Majbai. He finds the outlet, which is Colin. He was actually kind of locked up with Pedro Porro. That ball's taken away. As looks like Porro was going to try to shoot one. That's going to get taken away. And so now Burnley will control possession now. I'll give credit to Burnley, man. Their passing has been pretty good. They can find that runner. Generally, it's been down the left-hand side as that ball is going to get played forward. Nice little flick. Now it's to the right-hand side. Ooh. And I think that's going to get out for a corner as Vicario elected to tip that over the bar. Yep. Surprised he didn't try to grab that one. And as this will most likely be a Burnley corner, and it will. That ball is flicked in, headed away. As Burnley is going to try to play this one deep into the right side, and there's a whistle. And looks like it was Esteve charged with the whistle. So Spurs, they'll restart, and they'll restart quick. Here's Jed Spence. And it's Romero now. Here's Gray, who's going to play it down the right-hand side. Here's Porro. Porro is going to play it in, flicked on by Bergvall, but now taken away by Burnley. And that'll get out for a Spurs throw. Good idea right there. Just maybe, that weighted pass was just a little too much right there for Bergvall as he tried to flick one on. As Porro will play this one in. As it will be Romero. That ball's taken away. Here comes Majbi. Good tackle. But Burnley will get forward. Here comes Kyle Walker. Plays it across, and there's nobody there. And Anthony thought he got mugged by Porro. There's no call. And that'll get deflected out. I believe this will be a Spurs goal kick here. Oh, I think this is going to be offsides. Oh, and it will. I believe that Anthony might have been offsides. Yeah. As Kyle Walker tried to play one through. Anthony thinks he got robbed right there as Poro got him down. As all that brouhaha, and Burnley will have possession. As that ball's played up the right-hand side. Archie Gray doing a very good job right there. There is a whistle. As looks like Burnley will have the restart here. As it will be a free kick. Deep off the right-hand side. As that ball's going to get played in. Headed forward. There's Vicario. And that looks like the end of the first half. With Spurs leading 1-0 on a Richarlison goal in the 10th minute. As Spurs will have the lead at the break, and it's 1-0. Not a bad first half overall for Spurs. They did get the goal, but as that first half was winding down, it looked like Burnley was starting to take full possession. As let's go ahead and get into the halftime stats here. As Spurs lead the possession battle 71-29. They also lead the XG battle 0.46 to 0.33. Burnley leads 10-5 in total shots. They also lead shots on target 3-2. Accurate passes, Spurs 248 to Burnley 82. And Burnley also leads the quarter battle 3-2. Let's see. Okay, well, looks like player performance. Looks like Burnley, well, they've ran, 37.4 kilometers to Tottenham's 35.4. Sprinting is about equal. As we look at shots, Burnley has 2 blocked shots. Shots inside the box, Burnley 4, Tottenham 3. Shots outside the box, Burnley 6, Tottenham 2. Passes, Tottenham 276 to Burnley's 108. Touches in their own half, 147. Spurs, Burnley 18. Touches in the passes in the opposite half, Spurs 101, Burnley 65. Touches in the opposite box, Burnley 10, Spurs 6. Defense, tackles 1, Spurs 5, Burnley 2. Interceptions at 6-0, Burnley. Duels, Burnley leads 23-21. Ground duels, Burnley leads 15-13. Aerial duels are equal at 8. And it looks like Burnley leads in successful dribbles, which essentially tells you exactly how this first half has played out. Pretty much like I thought it was going to play out. I figured that Burnley would have their opportunities, and they certainly have. They just really haven't been in a position really to test Vicario all that much. But of course, Spurs landed the first punch, which was the Richarlison goal off a cross from Mohamed Kudus, who stayed with the play. I will say that, for Spurs, that, for the most part, they're the ones that have controlled the possession. And that certainly is something that is reflective of those numbers. But the one thing they just really haven't been able to do is sustain any type of buildup. In the early portion, they were being aggressive. They certainly were. By playing balls into the box off that right-hand side. But as this first half continued to play out, Burnley started getting forward a little bit. Nice weighted balls through 1v1 situations. But every time they tried, the Tottenham defense actually came up pretty clutch. So from that standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, I think Spurs have done a really good job. There's certainly a lot they have to clean up because, again, where they have done their best so far is up that right-hand side, which isn't surprising considering they're trying to get the ball on Kudus' foot and Pedro Porras' foot as much as possible. So from that standpoint, it's not bad. It could be better. It really could be better. I would like to see some movement on that left-hand side. I really would. Give Burnley something else to look at. But that being said, right, when they've had chances to, play the ball deep to Brendan Johnson, it just hasn't necessarily materialized all that well. And it's unfortunate, too, because, you're talking about Brendan Johnson, who really is a relegation merchant, seems to come alive when against these type of teams and figures out a way to score goals. Today, it looks like, Burnley has kind of marked him out on that left-hand side. So we'll see exactly how, if there are any changes in the second half. Wouldn't necessarily mind seeing Wilson Odebear, just saying. As we look at the chat here, here's Audio Artisan saying, Vicario worries me. Why? I think Vicario's been pretty good, all things considered. I really do. Hasn't necessarily had a lot of good, solid chances, but that being said, he's been pretty good in and around his goal line. I think his positioning has been good. Granted, the shots that have been on target for Burnley have not been strong. Strong shots. So from that standpoint, Vicario really hasn't had to really make an effort to save anything that would be considered deadly. So, I guess that's a good testament to Tottenham's defense because I think they played that really well. My question to you guys in the chat is, would you like to see some halftime changes? Because I think maybe they could tweak a few things, especially on that left-hand side. Brendan Johnson they have to be able to move that ball to the left-hand side as well, too. Because there was a lot of times where, Jed Spence had acres of space to push forward, but when he tried to, play that ball up to Brendan Johnson, he was just nowhere to be found. So, I don't know, man. Maybe a change on the left-hand side wouldn't hurt. But we'll see. The question is whether or not there's going to be a tactical change in that second half, right? Maybe bringing off an Archie Gray for a Kevin Danso, play a little bit more three in the back, using Muhammad as kind of an inside forward along with Richarlison and just, having two wing backs in Porro and Jed Spence. Wouldn't mind it. I think it would be something else to throw at them. And then that way it kind of allows Pap Sarr to play a little bit more freely, which could open up some things. I don't know. As they're currently showing some, some vintage footage here on Peacock. Looks like they're showing a little old school. Looks like Nottingham Forest. As Audio Artisan checks in here, I don't feel confident when the ball's at his feet and his punching from crosses looks weak. Yeah, the funny thing is there was a shot where, Vicario probably should have caught it instead of kind of playing it over the bar. But that being said, on crosses, our defense have actually done a fairly solid job, man. Of heading out the danger. So from that standpoint, I can understand what you're saying, but I think our defense has actually done a good job where Vicario hasn't necessarily had to play a large role in defending crosses. Big goal right there. Is that Keane? The Forest back in the day? All right, so I'm curious to know what you guys feel in the chat. Number one, how do you assess this first half? Let me know. Because I didn't think it was a terrible first half from a possession standpoint. But that being said, I was worried that, Burnley might try to overload that right-hand side. And there were times in the first half where I felt like that is exactly what happened. And because, we weren't actively trying to utilize that left-hand side, we looked a little one-dimensional. Yeah, okay, so they're playing a Roy Keane or a Robbie Keane promo here at halftime, whatever. I could care less about Manchester United. But I do want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because we are in a race to 1,000 subs. And over the course of the last couple of weeks, we have actually done a very good job with new subscribers. So I do want to thank those that have taken the time to subscribe. Also, hopefully you guys listening in, you show a little love by subscribing as well, too. Much appreciated. As there looks like they're, showing a Roy Keane montage here at the half, showing him hoisting up the Premier League trophy with Manchester United. Boo. I hated those Manchester United teams so much, by the way. Ugh. Ugh. Oh, well. Manchester United. Yeah, but so not a bad first half, man. Not a bad first half. Not exactly the greatest first halves. But that being said, to get the early goal is exactly what the side needed. It needed the crowd and the momentum on their side. And now it's, now it's up. Now it's up to Spurs to be a little bit more creative when it comes to finding better ways in the box, because the middle of the pitch itself has actually been an area where we just have yet to try to exploit a little bit. Let's see. Adi Watterson says the first half was pretty organized. They doubled up on Kudus a lot. BJ offered a little. Gray has a decent shift but needs to do more. Yeah, I can't argue. With that. We have been well organized, and that in itself is very reflective in the possession battle. But that being said, they have to figure out a way to be a little bit more dangerous going forward. And I don't know if that's trying to play Brennan Johnson in a little bit more on the inside, getting him on his right foot quickly, maybe. I don't know, man. But that being said, for me at least, it wouldn't be I don't know if it would be that crazy to think that maybe a guy like Wilson Odegaard could be a little bit better, and that can open up a few things. I would like to think. But nonetheless, Spurs lead 1-0. And of course, that goal came off a Richarlison, kick that was absolutely spot on. What was even better was the fact that Mohamed Kudus was able to keep that ball in, and the just the awareness to understand exactly where that ball was, beat his man to the byline, and put one in. Granted, it might have looked a little sloppy, but thank goodness Richarlison was there. So we are looking forward to starting the second half. I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. And it was a good way to start off this Premier League season. But that being said, we still got another 45 left to play. And of course, the wonder to me is whether or not, maybe a little bit of that second half comeback from PSG is probably in the back of their mind. Maybe. But that being said, this is Burnley. we should be able to close out Burnley. So far, we've been very good defensively. And he says, I reckon we'll see Telenotaber in this half. Yeah, I think potentially. But I think we're going to see Betancourt. I would be remiss if I didn't say that, because I would probably think that Polina, Betancourt, and Solanke will get in at some point in the second half. It almost makes sense, considering that Solanke has to work his way back into the starting into that starting 9 position after tweaking that. So he's working his way back. I think Polina is going to get some time as well too, as he is also working back as well too. It's obvious why Betancourt, Polina, and Solanke started this one on the bench, but I think we're going to see him at some point, 100%. Same thing with Telenotaber. As it looks like we're getting start for the second half, and there's Thomas Frank coming out. He would like to get his first Premier League win out of the way, and he's 45 minutes away from that. And it doesn't necessarily look like there are any changes to start this one. Yeah, doesn't look like it. As we are almost ready to start this thing, Spurs now will be playing toward the south end, their home goal. As so far, Burnley's only a goal down as the second half has started now, as the keeper will play this one deep, and it'll come down, looks like, to Brendan Johnson, Kudus, who belted that one forward. But there's Spurs right now, and they will take possession, and it's Jed Spence who plays this back to Vicario. Here's Romero. As Vicario is deciding which side he's going to play it to, and he'll play this off to Romero now. Here's Porro. Nice little touch right there. And it's Kudus. Here's Bergvall now. Here's Jed Spence now. He's got Akers as he's running. Plays this off to Brendan Johnson. Here's Brennan. As Brendan Johnson will try to play one in. That's headed away. But it's kept in. Here's Archie Gray, who plays this off to Romero. Over to Van de Ven. Plays this one in. Here's Jed Spence. Spence will play this over to Porro. Here's Kudus. Tried to play it into Papsar. Lays it off. Damn it. Ooh, that was a good idea. Just that touch was a little behind as Burnley tried to turn and move on the counter, but there was a foul right there. And so now Burnley will take this free kick right here. Audio Artisan says Scott Parker looks like he hasn't aged a day since he left us in his playing days. I know. I hate to say it, but that dude, that's one handsome dude. As this ball's going to get played forward. And here's Kudus now. And that ball has to get played back, and it's Porro as Burnley's trying to press. As Bergvall tries to go up, and he comes down with it. Here comes Bergvall now. As Bergvall's going to have to play this across, and he does. Here comes Jed Spence now. Spence has Akers as he's running. As he plays it off to Brendan Johnson. Here's Johnson. 1v1. Johnson to the outside. Plays it in. Ooh. There you go, Brendan. That ball's pitched away. Here's Archie Gray. Here's Pap Sarr. Sarr plays it around. Lays it off. Jed Spence. Here's Kudus. Archie Gray back to Kudus in the box. As Poro, that pass gets deflected away by Hartman. And that'll go out for a corner. Good ambition right there. He's got good. Yeah, dude. He's like my brother-in-law, man. That dude, that dude just never ages, man. As this will be a Spurs corner now. And that ball's whipped in. Headed up. Ooh, and headed over by Van de Ven. As Spurs were able to get down the pitch with ease here. As Van de Ven got in front of the keeper there. As that ball flies. Good corner right there by Spurs. And this will be a free kick, a goal kick here for Burnley. As that ball is going to get booted up. The left-hand side. Good play right there. As now Pedro Porro will win this back, and it's Vicario. And Vicario is going to try to hit Kudus as that ball gets headed back deep. And Romero's going to have to make a play. And that one's going to hit out for Spurs. Throw in. Yeah, but you're not wrong about Scott Barker, man. That's funny. As Spurs will play this one back to Vicario. And he's going to lay this one off, and it's Van de Ven who's going to play this back to Romero. Nice ball through. Here's Archie Gray, who was under pressure. Now it's Jed Spence. Spence is going to play this one up. It's Brendan Johnson. Johnson's going to cut in a little bit. He's going to lay this one back off to Archie Gray. Here's Jed Spence. Ooh. Nice tackle right there on Bergvall. But it's going to be Pedro Porro. Here's Kudus now. Kudus is going to try to play it off of Gray. Here's Pedro Porro now. Porro is going to play one. Headed away. It looks like it'll be kept in. Here's Van de Ven. Nice play. Here comes Jed Spence. Lays it off to Brendan Johnson. Too heavy of a touch. Now here comes Burnley. Look at Richarlison. Not bad. Spurs are pressing incredibly well. That ball's turned over. Nice defense right there by Van de Ven by holding it in. It's Archie Gray. He's going to play this one forward. Here's Brendan Johnson now. As Johnson's going to have to play this one back. That's taken away. As Burnley holds possession. That ball is going to get kept in. It's Archie Gray who's going to play this one forward. Here's Brendan Johnson. In. Richarlison. Deflected. Richarlison shoots. Oh, it's deflected away. Here comes Kudus. As that ball stays in. Kudus. Ooh. Gets played through. As that ball was onside. Nice little ball by Brendan Johnson. As Richarlison collected his own deflection. And then Richarlison put one on. As we watch again, here's Richarlison. Made a good move around. That gets deflected by the keeper. Wide right. And Kudus tried to play one to the back post. As Spurs now will hold possession. As it's Jed Spence now. And in the second half, they really have alternated sides now. As they have not necessarily tried to play it down the right the entire side, which I'm not exactly unhappy about, but it has opened some doors into the box there. Here comes Romero. Here's Poro now. Plays it forward to Kudus, who holds it up nicely. As Kudus plays it over to Van de Ven, who will quickly go to Jed Spence. Here's Archie Gray. That's going to get played forward all the way to the right. Here's Kudus. Here's Pap Sarr now. It's Sarr who's got to lay this one back a little bit. As now Romero will try to pitch one forward as that gets out. Ooh, great question right there. Do you think we'll play a back three against City? I wouldn't be against it. I like that. I like that shout. I think it would be in our best interest, I would think. It'll be a Burnley goal kick as they will play out of the back. But here's Richarlison doing a really good job of pressing. As they're going to try to clear this one, they can't. Spurs are making life difficult here as there is a whistle. But yeah, I think it would be not a bad option as Burnley's trying to play this one forward. They do a very good job. And look, there's a whistle. Considering the firepower City has, it wouldn't necessarily be the worst idea of making sure that they have to have the ability to break it down. I also think, playing in that 3-5-2 actually makes our attack a little bit better because it's not necessarily reliant on a 10. As that ball is going to get played down the right-hand side. Here's Kudus now. That's going to get out for a Spurs throw-in. As Kudus was marked pretty heavily by Esteve. So this will be a Spurs throw-in here. As we are now in the 55th minute. Spurs cling into a 1-0 lead. They're looking for their second. I think defensively, Spurs have been pretty good. They have taken away that long pass. That's going to get dinked around here in the box. It's going to come down, and it's Kudus. He's going to try to beat his man. He does. Tries to put one in. Looks like it gets deflected. Looks like this might be a corner kick here. The question is, for the chat, who's going to be the first off the bench tonight? Is it going to be Danso? Maybe solidify things defensively? Or is it going to be an attacker? Maybe Wilson Odebear, Dominic Solanke. I can definitely see that as well, too. As this ball gets whipped in. Back post, headed. It goes straight up and right into the keeper's hands. And they're going to try to play this one quick. As that ball is going to get shot all the way down the left-hand side. As it gets played forward. Cutting crossed. Ooh, nice. Nice defense. Now here comes Spurs. Quick on the counter. That ball's just a little too heavy. And Burnley will take possession again. As that ball gets played to the right. And it's Kyle Walker. As that ball gets played forward. Good ball. In the box. Ooh, Vicario, nice save. Ooh. Nice save. That was excellent movement right there by Burnley. Oof. That was close. Nice save by Vicario. I reckon Frank will be on tell to show support for him after the racist nonsense. What was the just out of curiosity, man? What was the racial controversy? I'm not privy to that. And by the way, that's bullshit. If I'm being perfectly honest. So it'll be a Spurs goal kick here, as this one will be played off to the left. Here's Van de Ven, who's going to play it deep to Johnson. He's going to come inside, play it to Sarr, and now it's back to Romero. Here's Porro. Plays it forward. It's Kudus. Now here's Porro. Good 1-2 right here. Now it's Bergvall. Here comes Jed Spence. And it's Archie Gray. Here's Porro. Down to Kudus on the right-hand side. 1v1. Nice ball in. Tipped away. Oh, nice way. Nice. By Pap Sarr. Here's Porro. Kudus. Oh, beats him around the corner. Kudus fires. Shoots. Goal! Richarlison does it again. Off another assist by Mohamed Kudus. Congratulations, audio. Congratulations. Congratulations on that one. That was brilliant. Richarlison gets his double in the 59th minute, and Tottenham gets their second. Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Okay. But man, look at Richarlison. And it's 2-0 Spurs. It starts right there with just a brilliant move by Kudus, who plays it, and then Richarlison again. An almost sideways bicycle. That was just a brilliant goal by Richarlison, and his second of the match. Wonderful. Jesus Christ, that was struck brilliantly. Woo! Woo! And Spurs grab a 2-0 lead. All right, I'm close to my 3-0 prediction score. And we are now 30 minutes away from a clean sheet. As Burnley now. And it looks like play is about to resume here for Burnley. As Richie, 2 goals, man. Yeah, I feel you. I feel you, audio. He definitely does, man. I feel you. As this is going to be a set piece here for Burnley. Yeah, and you know the interesting thing about your comment there, though, is that it definitely makes a lot of sense, right? This is for many players on the Spurs team that are on the peripheral of their certain national teams, right? This season is absolutely huge as that ball gets played in, and it's going to get deflected off to the right. Burnley will hold it, though. As that ball is going to get played in, headed out to the left, but Burnley will hold it in. Here comes Anthony. Trying to beat Pedro Porro. That ball's deflected. And here comes Mohamed Kudus. He's got to lay it back off to Pedro Porro now. And that ball's going to get deflected out for a throw-in. And it looks like Burnley is going to be the first to make the switch. As Majbi is going to come off, and it looks like it's going to be Larson that's checking in. that Strand Larson? No, it's okay. It's Brun Larson, the other of the Larsons. I was going to say Strand Larson plays for Wolves. The Larson brothers. As here's the reset here. As that's going to get played over to Romero. And here's Van de Ven. As Van de Ven's pushing forward. Oh, nice movement right there. As that's going to get deflected. As Burnley will try to hit the restart. Taken away by Spurs. Here's Pedro Porro now with room. Porro. I don't know if that was a cross, a pass, or a shot, or a combination. That was actually pretty ugly by Pedro. That will get out for a goal kick. That was not pretty whatsoever. As this will be a goal kick here. As this ball gets booted. Trying up the left-hand side, that ball gets deflected. Here comes Richarlison trying to make a play. And that's going to go off of Richarlison, the sideline judge says. As this will be a Burnley throw-in. And they will try to play this up. That's headed away. Looks like Spurs will get possession here as that one's played all the way back to Vicario. As it's 2-0 here in the 64th minute. Spurs leading 2-0. Both goals coming off of Richarlison shots. It's been a while since we've seen Richarlison play this well. It's nice seeing his work rate pay off. And it's Vicario. As there's Shamu, I believe the Tron is doing his own watch-along, if I'm correct about that, as that ball is going to get played in. Brennan Johnson shoots, scores! Brennan Johnson, as he flicks one in, and now Spurs lead 3-0, and there he is, the relegation merchant. Of course, Brendan's essentially invisible. And that was a good flip. As we look at this again, as it was Richarlison who held it up, and Sarr plays it forward. And there's Brendan Johnson, who was very much onside, and he beats his man, beats the keeper, and it's 3-0. Good tap in right there by Brendan Johnson. And Spurs now are in full control of this one. Unbelievable. And there's the turn. And it looks like Spurs have put away Burnley here as we're in the 66th minute. That's 3-0. As Papsar will assist Brendan Johnson on that goal. That was absolutely a beautiful pass forward, as Brendan was able to beat his man and the keeper. As Richarlison has scored 2. Both off Mohamed Kudus's crosses right there. As there's Burnley trying to get back into this one. That was actually a nice touch right there. Good ball movement, but that one was just high over the bar. Spurs lead 3-0 now. As Burnley's trying to press, here's Van de Ven. And there's a whistle, and Van de Ven's down. Ooh. He's up, though. And there's going to be a whistle. Looks like that's against Foster. But Van de Ven is up. As the restart happens here. And here comes Romero. As Wayne Bonner is asking, what have I missed? Who scored the goals and what were they like? Well, Richarlison got his second goal, again off of Mohamed Kudus' cross at the far post, and it was an absolute dandy of a shot. And then Brennan Johnson got played through by Pap Sarr. As here's Brennan Johnson again trying to put one in as Pap Sarr played on Brennan Johnson, who beat his man and the keeper for goal number 3. So they were very excellent finishes. And it looks like Richarlison just got dinged in the nuts right there. As looks like he's holding his junk right there. That's a dandy. As Brennan Johnson plays one in. As this will be a corner here for Spurs. As that ball's played in by Kudus. Ooh. That was tipped around. Well, here's the thing, Wayne. This is Burnley. And granted, the interesting thing is Burnley has tried to mark him off, but the one thing that ball's that's a nice through ball right here. As that's going to get played on forward. And that ball is crossed way too over. Here comes Pedro Porro. As Pedro will try to play this. That gets deflected. And there's a whistle. Like, don't get me wrong, right? Mohamed Kudus certainly has been well. And it looks like here comes Spurs will make a double switch, and it looks like it's going to be Betancourt and Solanke coming on. As Solanke will come on for Richarlison, and Betancourt is going to be coming on for Archie Gray. Not a surprise here. But what I will say to this is that, yes, it was money well spent, 100%. And he definitely has an opportunity to be a very good player this season. But again, it's Burnley. And that being said, the move for that second goal was a great touch from Kudus, who played one over. And it was almost like a bicycle right there by Richarlison for that second goal. But here comes Burnley. As they're trying to play this one in, as that'll get over the crossbar. I think this is going to be a Burnley corner. But that being said, I do agree that I think it was a very good piece of transfer business at $55 million. I wouldn't say it was okay, maybe it was a steal, but certainly we saw in the preseason, we saw some of the flashes that he had the potential. But again, this is match number 1, week 1 against Burnley. As that ball gets played in, as that'll get out. So that'll be another corner for Burnley here. But he's certainly done well 1v1. Getting those balls in. So from that standpoint, he's had a really good game. Big up to Richarlison as well, is finishing both of those. As that will go in. As that'll get deflected, as that shot tried to come in. Here's Larson, 1v1. Pedro Porro with a nice deflection. And it looks like it'll be a Spurs free kick here. Yeah. He was definitely a good piece of business. I'll just say that. And it looks like Burnley will make a couple more changes here as Foster comes out. And Son comes out. Sane for Fleming and Chukana. So Burnley has made four swaps, while Spurs have only made 2. As Betancourt and Solanke have come on for Spurs, which makes pretty much a lot of sense. I had a feeling both of those would feature today. As it's Vicario now, and he will play it off to Romero. As Romero will play it all the way to the left up to Van de Ven. And now it's Romero. Good touch right there. That ball's taken away. That was a bad touch right there by Papsar. Here comes Burnley. Ooh, nice. Here comes Bergvall now. And it's Pedro Porro. Here's Porro off the right side. He's going to fly one in. It's Solanke. Solanke turns. Solanke! Ooh, just missed it. Just missed it, but he held it up. Turned and fired. It was close. Ooh, Solanke was close. Look at that. Ooh. Not a bad first touch for Solanke there. As this will be a goal kick. We're in the 75th minute. Spurs leading 3-0. As this ball gets booted up the left-hand side. Headed back. Missed. Oh, nice tackle right there by Van de Ven. As Pedro Porro now is going to play this one up. Trying to find Solanke. Racing. It was Kudus. Nobody there. As Bergvall's going to try to pressure. That's going to come down. Oh, look at that. Still holding up to the ball. Hey, there's got to be a whistle right there. There is. Yeah. Audio Artisan, I believe that we will win. Yeah, I agree. Yep. Nice little mantra right there. They got that decisive third goal right there. And everybody knows in the history of Spurs right there, 2-goal leads are never safe. You got to get that third. So that from that standpoint, mission was accomplished. But I do give you props for those 2 Richie goals. That was a hell of a shout. As this will be a free kick here. As that ball's going to get played. Ooh! And it was Romero. Good run by Romero. Just a little wide. So it'll be a Burnley free kick here. Goal kick. Excuse me. That's just going to get tapped. Now off to the left. As that ball is going to get played forward. And it's Chukana here. Here's Larson. Oh, nice little play right there. Pedro Porro on Larson. That ball's cleared, though. That'll be a Burnley throw-in. As we are approaching the 78th minute, 12 minutes left. Spurs up 3. Here's the throw-in. And that's going to be headed away. That's a good deflection right there. Looks like that was Solanke. As that ball is going to get deflected. Oh, look at this. Ooh, I love it. I believe that might have been Van de Ven right there. Trying to play one through. Ooh, here comes Larson now. Look at Romero. Solid. Back to Vicario. And Vicario is going to have to play this one. Yeah, that's smart by Vicario. He just played it out. And we will see 2 more changes for Spurs as Wilson Odebear will check in for Brendan Johnson. It looks like Polinia will be in for Archie Gray. Excuse me, Lucas Bergvall. So Johnson and Bergvall are off. And Odebear and Polinia are on. Which is essentially what I assumed we were gonna see those players today. So 10 minutes left as we are in the 80th minute. Burnley is still hunting for their first, but Spurs have kind of turned up the pressure a little bit on them. And here comes the press. As Burnley has to play this long from the keeper. That was headed down, but Burnley will hold possession. That's a nice ball forward. Here's Larson. As they say, offside. Okay. Okay. I like it. There's Daniel Levy watching on from the executives box. Certainly he has to like this. The Spurs are up 3 here. Two goals by Richarlison, 1 by Brennan Johnson. And Spurs here will try to work possession. Here's Jedi. And that's played all the way back to Vicario. Good passing right there. And it'll be Romero. Here's Polinia. And it'll be played all the way back to Van de Ven, who will play it up to Spence now. Spence is going to try to shoot one down the left side. It's Odebear. Nice move. Ooh, take it away. Good movement right there. Van de Ven will hold it in. Here's Betancourt. It's Polinia. And that ball's going to get ricocheted and go out. So Spurs throw in here in the 82nd minute. As it looks like Spurs will hold on for a nice little comfortable 3 points, which is exactly what you wanted to see today. I never really thought this was in doubt. Spurs defense has actually held up quite nicely, refuting anything that Burnley tried to throw at them. as Romero will play this in. Nice little pass. Here comes Pedro Porro on the right-hand side. Porro will try to play it in. Here's Solanke. Holds it in. Tipped away. And Spurs will hold it. Oh, a nice ball. Ooh. And that'll get out. That was a nice ball right there. Yeah. I called it, man. I called it. I called it, audio. I called the 3-0. 3-0 clean sheet. That was a nice little save right there by that was a nice little move by Jed Spence. That was a nice save. But that being said, it looks like it's going to get out for a corner. Can Spurs add their fourth? As everybody's balled up there at the far post. And that's going to get played short. Here's Kudus. Kudus wide. As we're approaching the 85th minute here. And here comes Matisse Tell. And that'll be it for Mohamed Kudus here in the 85th minute. Not a bad reception from the home crowd. Not a bad reception at all. As Mohamed Kudus is essentially his first Premier League match for Spurs, 2 assists on the day. Not a bad first reception as Matisse Tell now will check on to the right-hand side. As Burnley looks to play this long here. Less than 5 minutes remaining before we hit stoppage time. As that'll come down in Spurs possession. That ball's going to try to get chipped forward. As there's a whistle right there. Solanke tried to hold this one up. And it'll be a free kick here for Spurs. Yep, he really was. As that ball gets played down the right-hand side. Here's Van de Ven. That ball's going to get taken away. Here comes Burnley. Up the left-hand side. Played forward. And cleared. Good coverage right there by Romero. And that's, don't get me wrong. I mean, Burnley has gotten forward, but they just have not been able to break down this back five. Spurs defense has been excellent, as this will be a throw-in here. As that ball is going to get played in, and that's going to get headed away. As that'll stay with Burnley, as that'll be another throw-in. Good start to the season. It looks like they're going to say Spurs throw-in. Good start to the season. Taking away the first 3 points of the season against Burnley. 2 assists on 2 Richarlison goals. And then finally, Brennan Johnson, a tapper, to make it 3. And that's where it stands here in the 87th minute now, as we are 3 minutes away. As that's taken away right there. Here's Odebear, who's got to play this one back. There's Van de Ven. Essentially was in no man's land. As Burnley will play it back to their keeper. As that ball's going to get played forward, headed away. And it's Romero. Ooh, nice play right there by Porro. Now he's going to play this long. It's Solanke. Kept in. Plays it forward to Odebear. Odebear. Oh, that's going to get out. Oh, that was Tell. Fair enough. No, Odebear's on the right. Oh, I see. Odebear's on the right side. So that was Tell on the left. Fair enough. Fair enough. So this will be a Burnley goal kick. That one's going to get played to the left. And Pedro Porro will just boot this forward. Chasing is Matisse Tell. And there's a whistle. As we're in the 89th minute, it was Tell versus Walker there. Former Spurs, Kyle Walker. As that ball is going to get played forward off the restart. That's going to get headed forward. As Burnley's fishing for one. And that's not a great pass right here. Here comes Spence. Here comes Tell now. Is Tell running into trouble there. And here's Paulinha. And it's Pedro Porro. It's João Paulinha who's going to play this all the way to the left. And that's going to be headed out. 3 minutes of stoppage time now as we are dangerously close to the final whistle. Looks like Spurs will have the clean sheet as that was played back to Van de Ven. Ooh, nice pass right there. As Romero will play it back to Vicario. Here's Van de Ven, who's going to play this centrally. It's Betancourt, who's going to play it all the way up. It's Pedro Porro now. Pedro Porro. Looks like it's João Paulinha. It's Romero. Here's Paulinha forward. Now it's Van de Ven. Here's Spence. It's Tell. As Paulinho will play it all the way to the right. And that gets headed out. As we're pushing minute 92. And Porro with throwing. We'll play it back to Romero. Good ball movement here. It's Betancourt, who's going to play it all the way to Van de Ven. As it's Jed Spence now. Here's Tell. Tell trying to get forward. Nice little ball. Good tackle. As we are almost dangerously close to the final whistle now. 92 plus 18. Spurs lead 3-0. They're about 30 seconds away from their first clean sheet. As that ball's going to get played to the left-hand side. Looks like it's Larson all alone. And a whistle. 15 seconds remaining. As that ball finds Larson on the left-hand side. Ooh, and it flies through the box. as Jed Spence will be there. And there it is. Thomas Frank is victorious in his first Premier League start. Gets the 3 points as Richarlison scores 2 off 2 Mohamed Kudus crosses. Brennan Johnson will score the third, and the Spurs will take a 3-0 victory over Burnley to start the 2025-2026 campaign. God damn it, it was a very good performance by the Spurs today. Very organized and very compact on that back four. And as Audio Artisan has mentioned right here, it's a well-deserved 3 points. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Let's go ahead and get into the stats for this one. At the final whistle, the possession battle, Spurs 68, Burnley 32. They obviously win the XG battle, 2.33 to Burnley's 1.10. 16 total shots for Spurs to Burnley's 14. 6 shots on target for Spurs to Burnley's 4. And, of course, big chances, too, goes to Spurs and Burnley with none. Accurate passes, Spurs 450. Burnley 180. Fouls committed, Spurs 14, Burnley 8. And Spurs win the corner battle 6-5. Let's see. As we look at the shots a little bit more in depth. Shots inside the box, Spurs 12, Burnley 7. Shots outside the box, Burnley 7, Spurs 4. And it gives you an example of just exactly which side was a little bit more dangerous in the box. Burnley was kind of kept outside. The passing battle, Spurs win that 510 to 240. Great googly moogly. 510 passes, unbelievable. 247 to 66 in their own half, and in the opposition half, nearly double. Spurs 203, Burnley 114. Accurate crosses, Spurs 8, Burnley 3. 17 throws to Burnley's 15. Touches in the opposite box, 26-24. And Burnley had 4 offsides. On the defensive side of the thing, Spurs 9-2 on tackles, 1. Ground duels was even at 45. The ground duels 1 was 30-27. Aerial duels 18-15 to Burnley, and successful dribbles Spurs 11-7. So from that standpoint, at the final whistle, it shows you exactly how much on the front foot that Spurs were throughout the entire contest. And of course, did take advantage of the chances that were created. And I think that's absolutely brilliant considering, what we saw in the preseason versus what we saw last year. And it looks like there is confidence moving forward. So from that standpoint, it was well-deserved. So from that standpoint, I got to say, man, it was a great performance today. My man of the match probably does go to Richarlison in getting the 2 finishes. Again, kind of difficult finishes in quality. But that being said, man, Richarlison deserves huge props from that standpoint. I will say that, our ball movement was really good at times. And of course, Brendan Johnson getting that third goal, considering his total performance was much to be desired, I would say, especially in that first half, because they were trying to play him on. He just couldn't get free. And in the second half, man, Pap Sarr finds him. And he was able to get that finish, beating his man. So from that standpoint, I guess, Brendan finished a little bit better. But of course, this is his MO against relegation fodder. He finds a way to score. So it's all good. So Spurs win 3-0. And they get the much-deserved 3 points to start this one off. And it was a necessary 3 points at that as well, too. As Audio Artisan will say that his man of the match was probably Richie, closely followed by Kudus. Yeah, I got them 1-2. But I do want to send some love to that back four because I thought they were actually pretty brilliant. Burnley did have their opportunities to get down. But they could not finish. They could not figure out a way to get past that Tottenham back five right there. I think they held up quite well. whenever there was a ball try to play, it was either Van de Ven or Romero closing it off, not giving him an opportunity to get forward. So our defense actually has to be credited with a strong performance as well too, because Burnley could not find a way in, and that was absolutely massive. So from it essentially meant that Vicario really didn't have much to do. The shots that were on target were not anything remotely dangerous from that standpoint. There was one where Vicario probably should have caught it, but he tipped it out, leading to a Burnley corner, but nothing came about it. So from that standpoint, man, our defense really has to get credit there. But from that standpoint, yeah, it's probably Richie. The man on that has to kind of be that. Outside of you, Audio, I don't think anybody was expecting a brace from Richie today, but God damn it, man, that's exactly what you want from a guy who, up to this point, especially in the preseason, hadn't shown much. But, for a guy who is on the periphery of Brazil's national team to start off the season, bagging too, man, that was awesome. So for those that are tuning in, Spurs win 3-0. And again, fantastic performance. And it looks like this team is, better organized than what we saw at any point last season. And it's nice to see, them get 3 points right out of the gate. This is going to be, it's as far as I'm concerned, man, this is exactly how you build momentum. And I know next week we get Manchester City. I get it. But that being said, man, I'm not overly concerned whatsoever. I think Man City plays Wolves this week. I'd be kind of interested to see that, but I don't know. Like I don't think any of you guys should be worried about Man City either, but it is what it is. I don't know, man. We'll see. As we have, thank you, man. Good job to you as well, too. And then we have Luke. An organized defense is so refreshing to see. Oh, 100%. Without a doubt, man. Being compact, being organized, always being in the right position, for sure. As, that was, to me, that was as impressive as it was, to see 2 goals from Richie. Just seeing Burnley struggle trying to break down that back four. Romero and Van de Ven were 100% in the right places at the right time. Even when they tried to play balls through, they couldn't figure a way around it. And because those two have pace, they couldn't even play balls forward. So, man, unbelievable. Let's go ahead and check some scores from around the Premier League because I just want to, because I think it's important. Let's see. All right. From week 1, yesterday, the Premier League kicked off with Liverpool versus Bournemouth. Antoine Semenyo scored 2 in the second half for Bournemouth, but Ekitike scored in the 37th minute, Gakpo in the 49th, Chiesa in the 83, and Salah in the 90+4s. Liverpool absolutely smashed Burnley yesterday. Jesus Christ, that was a performance. Today, it looks like Aston Villa Newcastle played to a 0-0 draw, and it looks like Ezri Konsa got the red card in the 66th minute, and Newcastle wasn't able to take advantage of the extra man. But sure enough, that finishes at a 0-0 draw. Brighton ties Fulham 1-1 as Matt O'Reilly scores a penalty in the 55th minute for Brighton, and Rodrigo Muniz equalizes in the 90+6 as Fulham is able to withstand Brighton 1-1. How about this? Sunderland back in the Premier League beats West Ham 3-0. Elizer Mayenda scored in the 61st minute, Daniel Ballard in the 73rd, and Wilson Isidore in the 90+2 as Sunderland welcomes back the Premier League. Welcome back to the Premier League with a big win over West Ham to open things up. A massive win for Sunderland. Congratulations on that one as well, too. I am absolutely thrilled that Sunderland got off on the right foot. And I don't know how you guys feel, but I would love to see Sunderland stay up this year. We'll see how that goes. And, of course, we beat Burnley 3-0. Later today, actually starting in just a few minutes, Wolves host Man City. Crystal Palace tomorrow, by the way. Crystal Palace will travel to Chelsea. Brentford travels to Forest. Arsenal goes to Man United. Let's go, Man United. And Everton travels to Leeds. And that will be on Monday at 3:00 here in the United States. So that'll be the wrap up right here. But again, for those that were watching, man, Spurs 3-0 over Burnley, and what I would like to consider a very good win for Spurs. Everything went right. And again, congratulations to Thomas Frank getting his first victory as Spurs head coach. I think he did. I think he played it completely correct today. Not only was his starting 11 correct, but I think he got his substitutes right as well too. And again, it's always nice when Richarlison can get two. So that's going to do it for me. And I want to thank everybody who participated in the chat today. I want to thank everybody who is listening live. Thank you again. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because we are on a race to 1,000 subs, and it would be much appreciated. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. So until next time, thank you guys. Have a great day.